Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Tuesday to all the Cubs fans out there. We've got a great podcast for you today for all of those joining on the YouTube feed. We appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe, download that YouTube page for CHGO Sports because that's the best way to take in everything we're doing. However, if you're a subscriber on podcast, we're on every platform. Make sure you rate, like, all of those nice things. We have a special guest in studio. Oh, well, here we go. Technical difficulties. Ryan's back in studio one day. Technical difficulties. Yep. Ryan Herrera's back. Cody Demunda was always here. I've always been here. But we have the voice of Wrigley Field, Jeremiah Paprocki.
There we go.
Very nicely done. Here. We all know that I do a garbage job on the intro to the show. Jeremiah, can you please tell us, give us like one sentence to introduce this show that we can maybe, every once in a while go to if I have a hoarse voice or maybe I've got a little cold going.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the CHGO Cubs Podcast.
Yeah.
Wow. There it is. That's what we needed.
Beautiful.
So the voice of Wrigley Field, the PA announcer at Wrigley Field. We're going to get to know you. We're very excited about this throughout the podcast. Gosh, this is going to be your third season, isn't it?
Third season coming up, 30 days away. I'm excited.
That's hard to believe already, isn't it?
I know. Time flies. I can't believe it.
It's longer than I've been on this pod. That's 2 years longer than this podcast has been around at this point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But when you start doing that job in 21, you probably don't expect time to go by that quickly, right? Like, do you take time to soak it in as a Chicago kid, a Cubs fan, like embrace what's going on in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anytime I'm at the ballpark, I'm like, this is crazy. Like now having the opportunity to show up 81 times guaranteed a year, a season is just mind-blowing that just a few years back, I was going as a fan, sitting in the bleachers, going 2-3 times a year to a game, and always envisioning the opportunity to be in the press box, behind the mic, calling the names, and then it actually happening, where it's not a vision anymore or a dream, it's reality. And like even not at the ballpark where I'm at home or anybody mentions anything Cubs, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the voice of Wrigley. It just casually becomes a reminder here and there, and I'm like,
the voice of Wrigley,
unbelievable, but it's
the
cool.
voice of United, O'Hare Airport. I saw that video that you
doing O'Hare Airport now too.
I did a little voiceover for the new Terminal 5 expansion, so it was a little voiceover project. But obviously O'Hare is a big name, so that was really cool to get that opportunity.
It's international. You're international. People are flying in from all over the world.
Yeah, your
voice is soothing them as they get ready to go into our traffic. That's the way it is. They land and get ready for 2 hours of traffic as you head.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, that's exciting. You do soccer as well, right?
Yeah, I'm the PA announcer for the Chicago Red Stars and for UIC men's basketball team, but I also do like all the other sports like soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball's coming up. So
busy man.
Busy.
Yeah.
Trying to stay busy.
My question is, when did you discover that you had the voice to be a PA announcer for not just the Cubs, but just in general, like you had the voice for this job?
I would say pretty early on in life, like around 7th or 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
So the backstory behind that is how I got into all of it is after my first couple of Bulls games I went to, I got really intrigued by the whole animation intro sequence when the running of the Bulls goes through the city.
Yeah.
And then it's the picture of the bus with the opposing team, and that's when the Cirrus picks up. And then the former PA announcer for the Bulls, Tommy Edwards, would belt out the "and now." And so I would just unconsciously find myself doing the "and now." And it was at home, it was at school, in a classroom. I'd get check marks for being disruptive in class, but it was well worth it because that was, in that moment, I was kind of shaping my voice into what it is today. And when you get to that point at that age where, you know, they tell you to start looking for things to get into career-wise, funny enough, I wanted to be an airline pilot. Me and my mom would always travel, even at a young age, and so I was always at an airport or exposed to like airplanes and stuff like that. And then just little by little, as I got into high school, the opportunity came out where I got to do the homeroom announcements. Took it upon myself to do our sports teams there, and then, you know, UIC came about, and then little by little worked over there, and then the Cubs job opened up, and here I am. So.
There we go.
It all started because of the most iconic introduction in sports, in my opinion.
Definitely.
It's one of them for sure. Well, I imagine you as a little kid being like, and Mom now going to get the mail.
I wasn't.
Did you drive her crazy at some point?
I wasn't that extreme, but
Okay.
I would literally, there were times where I probably would drive her crazy because when the Bulls were playing games, I would actually pretend that I was Tommy Edwards, but at home. And so I'm watching the Bulls game on TV, whether it's WGN or NBC Sports Network, and I'd like print out a roster or make a makeshift one, and I'd be like, checking in for the Bulls, number 1, Derrick Rose, at home, to the TV, and myself. And so I'm sure she was in the other room like, God, this kid is crazy.
But here you go.
But it worked out.
Yeah, practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly.
I like it.
So we're going to get to know you, as I said, throughout the podcast. I do want to get to the Cubs injury news. That's the big story of the day, and that is Seiya Suzuki with a moderate, the results are now back in, moderate oblique strain. And we have David Ross from Marquee Network this morning talking about the injury. And, of course, we had the news late last night that he was going to now skip the World Baseball Classic.
Get a plan in place. It is a minor strain. And, you know, I think it's one of those things, like I said yesterday, we'll kind of put the plan in place, react to how he's feeling, let him build back up. And the goal is to get him back when he's fully healthy and can really contribute and help us. These oblique things are pretty tricky, so we'll make sure we're listening to his body and talking to docs.
So not great news. You know, we're not going to put Jeremiah in an odd position because he works for the Cubs, so we're not going to talk about replacements with him. But it is interesting that now you look at the timeline and you say, Ryan, you look at Tyler Glass now has a moderate strain, and they're saying 6 to 8 weeks. You would think it probably puts opening day in question.
I think so. I think it does. And, you know, every oblique strain is different. We saw it a couple years back with Nico. You know, Nico had that oblique thing that kept, I believe it was Nico that kept popping up on him in 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Drew Smiley had an oblique thing last year. So everyone's different, and everyone's timeline is different. And just looking at Glass now, obviously he's a pitcher, and Seiya Suzuki's a right fielder. So even that part of it is different. But I don't know. I think he put the rough timeline in that 4 to 8 week range just to see. So it does put opening day in question. But just my question to you, Jeremiah, is having, you know, from your perch in the PA box, just seeing Seiya Suzuki last year. I mean, how excited were you to, you know, coming in this season and seeing Seiya Suzuki in his second year on the Cubs?
I'm always excited for any of the players that are on the roster, and just as always looking forward to that new excitement, that fresh air of new baseball. And we're 30 days away, so I'm very excited to see how this new roster shapes out to be. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, It's certainly not great in terms of the injury. I think the thing that scares me the most is just that it's oblique and it can be tricky and you just don't know. Like he could be fine in 2-3 weeks. He could be fine in 6 weeks. I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing about it that bothers me. So I want to believe that they just aren't letting him go to the WBC for precautionary reasons. And hopefully there's an update sooner rather than later.
Well, you feel bad for him because here's a guy who went home and embraced everything the Cubs said at the end of the season. You know, his body kind of wore down on him a little bit at the end of a long major league season, his first last year. He went home, put on the 20 pounds, worked out. I mean, if you saw anybody come back and show up in Arizona, you were like, this guy did the work. He was the guy. So now to have something that bugs him early on, right out of the gate, it has to be frustrating for him because I think there's a lot of people, including all of us around baseball, looking at him and saying, here's a guy who could take a nice baseline rookie season in the majors and potentially take a huge step, right? So we were kind of hoping, and I don't think there's reason to rule any of that out yet just because of an oblique strain early in the season, but it has to be at the very least frustrating for him. Don't you think? I mean, he's got to be.
So. Well, and then you think about the fact that he was really looking forward to playing in the World Baseball Classic. He was on Team Japan in 2017. He was 22 years old at the time. Now he's 28, prime of his career, a full season of facing Major League pitching under his belt. Like, he probably would have been a pretty big part of that Team Japan team. And, you know, I'm sure it's just very disappointing for him to not be able to represent his country in the World Baseball Classic, but also, yes, to not know at the moment whether he'll be healthy on opening day, is especially with all the work he did this offseason. Yeah, it has to be disappointing. Not, you know, for the Cubs, for the fans, for him specifically too. It's just like it is a disappointing situation all around. Because I think people were expecting to see some big things out of Seiya, just with the work he put in, having that full year under his belt. Like, that was – everyone was interested to see what Seiya Suzuki could do this season, and now you don't know if he's going to start the season healthy and playing right field for the Cubs anymore.
I will just say don't hit the panic button.
Yeah.
Because you look around baseball and you see other guys suffering season-ending injuries that have already happened, and you see it all the time in football and other sports, but for baseball players – it's not quite as usual, but you see the Dodgers going through that, and we'll talk more about it later. But at least it's something they've got an eye on. They know what's going on, and they know to take it easy. It's not something that they're going to push just to get him ready for opening day. If that's, first of all, he'd probably be like, well, I could miss 2 or 3 cold days. I would. You know, he was already saying it was a little cold there at Wrigley Field. So no, it's disappointing. And Patrick Wisdom scratched again. He was in the lineup today. Now he's scratched again, and he is going to have James Triantos will be the DH today. But hey, it opens the door for other guys in Arizona to step up and make their name known.
Right, and we've talked about the depth on this team, and critics are asking if it's good depth or not, but I do think the Cubs have good depth position player wise, and so this is a chance for guys like Nelson Velasquez and Christopher Morel and maybe even Brennan Davis. A lot of people were tweeting at me last night. Is Brennan Davis going to get that opportunity? And I think based off what we've heard, the front office and the team say that they feel like he probably going to start the year in the minors either way unless more injuries come. But this is a good opportunity for other guys. And at the end of the day, I mean, I'd rather have Seiya Suzuki as our starting right fielder. But I think that you got to have guys step up when stuff like this happens. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
We will see, and we'll continue to take a look at what's going on. The Cubs play again this afternoon against the Brewers while the podcast is going on. They'll be starting up out there in Arizona. But we want to get to know Jeremiah. And, Cody, before we do that, I do want to point out that one thing that always makes you feel better if you've got an injury is Goose Island beer. It takes a little bit of,
last night, the news came out that Seiya wasn't going to play in the WBC. So what did I do? I had to crack open a Goose Island because I had to feel better a little bit. So, I really like the beer hug editions that they have, the tropical one, 9.9 alcohol percentage. I'm not counting, just saying. Goose Island is the official beer of CHGO, Chicago's beer since 1988. They got the Black Ox Pale Ale. The Goose Pub in the UC has been open for almost 10 years. The tap room is a pregame destination for Hawks fans. Lots of charity work between the two organizations over the years. The Bull City 312, which is a limited release. If you haven't tried it, try it now. The can matches the 2022-2023 City Edition uniforms. In the 312 Wheat Ale, the Bourbon County Stout, Christmas IPA, Beer Hug IPA series, like I said. The Matilda. Guys, I love it all. 312 Green Line. Goose Island is my favorite beer. There's no doubt. It is my favorite beer. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. So we got, I know we have the Bulls watch party tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I believe it's, Goose Island is helping us out. I think there'll be some deals there. $2 Goose Island beers. I don't quote me on that. I can't remember. Just CHGO Bulls Twitter account. There's information about it there.
There we go.
But Goose Island, thanks to them for helping us out with that. Goose Island's 2 local locations are open and ready to welcome you. Grab a beer right from their innovation tanks at the Goose Island Tap Room at 1800 West Fulton, or get a smash burger and a fresh beer of the week at the original Clybourne Brew House at 1800 North Clybourne. For reservations and pickup, go to gooseisland.com/locations. Goose Island Beer Company.
We love it.
One thing that Jeremiah is going to notice at Wrigley Field already this year is how much more beautiful Wrigley Field will be at night with that new ComEd efficiency lighting that they put in. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade their outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. Learn about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device or track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor-outdoor lighting, network lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. Visit ComEd.com/poweringbiz right now to start saving money and energy. And to start a project, contact them at 1-855-433-2700. For more information, email businessee@comed.com or publicsectoree@comed.com. We are lucky to have Jeremiah Paprocki, the voice of Wrigley Field, on the CHGO Cubs podcast today. Been doing it for 2 years at Wrigley Field as the PA announcer. This will be his 3rd season. And I guess the first thing that I always want to know about this, whether somebody's doing a Bulls game or a Cubs game. So obviously in your case, we're talking Cubs. What is your daily routine like? When do you start looking at specifically the names of other teams? Because you have to call the other team coming to the plate too. So when do you start looking at what your daily routine will be like?
Yeah, baseball, there's a lot of preparation into it just because there is a lot of games throughout the stretch of the season. And so the prep load isn't as daunting as most people think it would be. So I tend to do it about 2 to 3 days before a homestand. So, for example, if it's Milwaukee and Arizona back-to-back like that, then I would prep Milwaukee first, and I'll go through their 48-man roster. 48, right?
40-man roster.
40-man roster. I'll go to the 40-man roster, look at all the players that are on there, see who's on the IL or who could potentially be called up, and then look at the 28-man roster, and then see who is active and more likely to be coming out, either a pitcher or a batter. And the league has a league-wide pronunciation guide.
Right.
And so we have access to that, obviously. And so we look through that to see if there's anything there that they can help us. And if not, then YouTube becomes my best friend, and I'll search up their name and then look at previous broadcasts that have said their names. And then the tricky part is, because baseball is such a long season, there's a lot of factors that go into a lot of minor leaguers coming up, where it's like they're not on that league-wide pronunciation guide because they weren't active at the start of opening day. And so I have to do more research on my end. And sometimes it's even harder because they might not have a lot of like highlights or anything on YouTube. And so then our showing up day of and trying to get to our communications department as soon as possible and just asking like, hey, anybody know the pronunciation on this guy? And, you know, sometimes that includes going to the marquee booth and asking Boog and JD if they know, or Pat and Ron, and just trying to get as much of the pronunciation right and consistent across everyone so that we're all saying it right. Because in a sense, we're all a team. Even though we're in all separate booths, our job is to say the names as right as possible. And so I pride on that a lot, because that is the bulk of the job, is saying the names of the players. And so I'll go through as much channels as possible to make sure I get it right. And then sometimes if I need to, I'll phonetically spell it out myself so that I have a way to remember it. And then I have a sheet up there, whether it's the MLB one or my own, and it's right next to my microphone on top of my game day binder, and I have it as a reference point throughout the game.
Have you ever had to either A, go down to a clubhouse just to double check because you're not sure? Because here's the tricky thing about YouTube I've found out, just from pre and post game and all those different things, is you can go there and sometimes the broadcasters of their own team will be saying their name wrong. For instance, Brian Urlacher is not Brian Urlacher, but half of our city says Brian Urlacher.
Probably more than that. Probably like 75%.
Right?
I say it Urlacher.
Joakim Noah. It went back and forth. There was a Cub, Todd Wellemeyer. He was Todd Wellmeyer at first. So sometimes have you had to go down, or have you had a player anywhere be like, you don't have to tell us the name, but have you had a player be like, yeah, so I told everybody this is how I say it, but it's really this.
Yeah, no, I've had a situation before where I was saying it wrong, and I had like multiple versions of the name. And so, but going directly to the player is the last resort, and more than likely it should never happen.
Yeah,
because my job is to not really bother them, because we all have our own. They're let them focus on what they have to do game day wise, and I focus on what I have to do game day wise. So I never want to go to a player directly and say, hey, how do I say your name? Even though it'd be the easiest and quickest way at the professional level, I don't want to do that. And so I know that I have multiple people I can go to first before, if that would ever be the case. But even when I did go through those steps, I would have a particular person come to me and say, no, you said it this way, it's not this way. And so I don't want to say the name.
Yeah,
but,
understandable.
But, you know, there was maybe like 3 versions in one season of that name.
Okay.
So,
just so
and
you
I
know,
felt bad because
it is Stuckmeyer, not Suckmeyer. So please.
I got you.
And the other versions we're not even going to say on YouTube.
Here, I'm gonna help you out. We've spoken to Jameson, the new Cubs pitcher. It's Tyone. He says
I know.
like a
Yeah,
tie,
that's a
and
tricky
you
one.
own
Tyone.
it. But I think everyone got it wrong at first when he first signed. It's
I definitely did.
He says it's like it's a tie that you own. I'm like,
Right.
all right,
Yeah,
that helps.
that's the best way to remember it.
That helps me out.
Yeah,
for sure.
and like when players get signed, I like look at it immediately.
Yeah.
So if like with Jameson, like when he got picked up, I looked at it again, but it also helps that you are a baseball fan, and me being a big baseball fan, I keep up with the entire league.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with how anybody is saying any player's name. So that also helps in my preparation, is to be like, oh, I remember when someone on MLB Network said their name. And so, or maybe I'll like stumble across other like game day videos where like I'm hearing it in the background, and so Jameson's name is something that I've heard in years past. I've never gotten to announce him yet, but
there you go.
I was already aware of how to pronounce his name, and so that helped out a lot too.
We're coming up on it now. Look at your chance.
Definitely.
So this isn't a Cubs player. On TikTok last week, I had a slew of Cardinal fans yell at me because I said Jack Flaherty's name wrong. I said
You say it wrong all the time.
I said it Jack Flattery.
Yeah, you call him flattery. We know.
And
it's
in my
flattery in
defense,
its own
I've
form.
heard it both ways. All right, but is the MLB pronunciation? Is it actually Flaherty? Is that how they have it in the book? Off the top of your memory.
I believe so. It should
Flaherty.
be, because that's the correct way to announce it.
it's right.
How it's spelled out on there is, I have no idea, but like I could picture it as Flair T. So
Yeah.
So do you have it like? I know you mentioned you had like the list. Are they mostly spelled out phonetically, or are they mostly spelled out with like how would you rather have the phonetic spelling or like the last name or both? Like how?
So it's interesting because it really depends on the name. So if like the first name is a common first name, but the last name is hard, it would just be the last name.
Okay.
And so there's been some times where the whole name is hard and they give me just the last name, and I'm like, oh, I think it's this, but I'm not 100% sure. So that's where all the whole research process comes into play. But for the most part, they do a really good job of covering all the bases on what would be typically hard to anybody trying to look at it for the first time.
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
And you've got to throw the Chicago accent into everything, too. You have to decide, do the fans want to hear Contreras or do they want to hear Contreras? It depends on what side you land on with that. So
Yeah, I typically stay with my delivery.
yeah,
And so even though I'll try to slip in a few like rolling the R's here and there.
Yeah.
But as an announcer, I want to stay consistent. So I try not to stray too far away from anything, just because it's like I want to be that voice that's consistent all year round.
I
Give
think
it a
it
little
would,
flavor every once in a while. Though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think it would be fun to have like somebody like Mike North, the old radio announcer from The Score, come on and do a broadcast with you or a game with you at Wrigley Field, and he could throw in the heavy Chicago accent. Now batting, you know, like the heavy South Side, North Side accent. What I love about what's happening for you, and you've earned it, and you're doing a great job, and I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about the way you go about your business at Wrigley Field, which
It's
is
always good.
well, first of all, it's a rarity in almost anything. Okay, that's
Yeah,
true. Like
yeah.
somebody is always complaining about
There's-
something in our world today. So I've never heard anybody say we don't like Jeremiah. Everybody says they love Jeremiah. They love the way you do it at Wrigley Field. What I think is cool is you grew up going to games with your mom at Wrigley Field, and now when kids go, the voice that they will associate with that first experience at Wrigley Field, when the first time you walk up and you see the Ivy with your own eyes instead of seeing it on television or hearing it on the radio, the voice they will associate with that experience will be yours. Is that something you've ever thought about? That
Yes, no, definitely. I definitely I have much pride in everything that I do, especially that. And so that's why like I try to take care of myself all year round, because I have to take care of myself, but I pay more attention to like the things that I eat or drink throughout the baseball season, because 81 home games is a lot.
Yeah.
And my goal is to never miss any of those 81 home games or more. And so I, pay attention, because you don't want to come across where like those factors where you can't control if, you get food poisoning or, you just get sick or something like that. And so, I think, there's a couple pro athletes that have always said in the past, like, or like Michael Jordan, I think he said like, hey, this is someone coming to the game. This is going to be their probably first experience of seeing me for the first time, or having the only opportunity to see me play. And so that's a quote that I've taken seriously from my end in my career, is because I am a part of the game day experience in some way. Somebody might be coming to Wrigley for the first time, and I know obviously you go to a Cubs game to see the Cubs play, but there might be someone that appreciates the game day experience and takes in all the factors like the organ, the video graphics, me as the public address announcer. And so I don't want somebody to miss out on that experience because I was sick or I didn't take care of myself a couple of days before. And so, I take the whole game day experience to the heart, and I make sure that I will never miss a Cubs game as the public address announcer, and knock on wood. I like I said, just keep it short. I pride on it a lot.
I do think a lot of people like take in a lot of that, because that's like part of my like favorite part about going to games is, I like to get there pretty early so I can hear you do the lineups and all of that stuff. And then also like I like the video that they always play before every game that gets the fans hyped up. Like it is the game day experience, like you said. I do think a lot more people than many might expect really come to Wrigley for like that being a big part of it. It's kind of like with the Bulls. Like I like going to Bulls games mainly to see the intro. That's honestly the whole reason that I like going to Bulls games. And so, yeah, I mean, that's I really respect that from you coming to say that on how much pride you take into being at every game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also maybe like just like a subconscious kind of thing. Like people don't really pay attention to it that much, but it's always like in the back of their head, right? So like if they think about that game day, there's a chance that they eventually will think about like, oh, like the PA announcer, whoever it was. So I get what you're saying as far as like just the whole overall of wanting to get the players' names right, wanting to do a good job, wanting to, even like not try to not have like a raspy voice or something like that during a game, because it all plays into that experience. I understand that completely.
Baseball sort of brings a different atmosphere than the other sports too. At least for me, it does. It takes you back in time a little bit. And of course, Wrigley Field really takes you back in time, where you can almost envision players from different decades playing, going all the way back to like when they used to leave the mitts and gloves out on the field even, And so you're doing it at a ballpark that isn't just another ballpark in Major League Baseball. There's cookie cutter ballparks. I'm not going to say who they are, but they're out there. Milwaukee. Okay, so St. Louis. But Wrigley Field is one of these unique places where people come from all over. We have Rachel in the chat. She came from England, and she got teary-eyed when she walked into Wrigley Field. You're part of that experience. I love that you take that into account, that you think to yourself, I don't want them to remember from the game that the PA guy was sneezing because he didn't take his Flonase in the morning, right? It's crazy, but that's the type of unique, weird thing you have to think about.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Wrigley Field is such a historic ballpark that people are coming from all over the world. And I met Rachel, and she came up to the booth and saw what we do up there. And so it's those experiences like that where I'm very fortunate to have time to be very social with the fans and interact with them. And so I get to hear all these stories, and I know how much more it means to them as well. And so that's something that I always keep in the back of my head as a priority, is like, somebody is coming from Arizona or California or Alaska or
London,
Japan or
Germany,
London, all over the world. So it's like that's going to be their first experience of Wrigley Field, and I definitely want to be a part of it and uphold my best work for all the fans that come throughout the year.
Fernando with a great comment in this chat asking if you have a spoken word count, because we don't want to be charged by the word if you're doing this. Of course. I do want to ask you about the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You are, listen, I have to call, you're a Hall of Famer. Your face is in the Hall of Fame. Your microphone is in the Hall of Fame. You're the youngest PA announcer in Cubs history. You're the first African-American PA announcer in Cubs history. What does that mean to you to be both of those things and also recognized by the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown?
That is definitely the top of everything in my whole life, because it's not something that you expect. I didn't even when I got the job, I didn't even expect that to come shortly after. I mean, there's a lot of guys that come in and as players, they come in and, you know, they work hard in their playing career to get that opportunity. And little old me here, one season later, is getting that recognition and opportunity. So it's very humbling, still mind-blowing. I actually got the opportunity to go to Cooperstown last year, right before the start of last season, to go see my microphone that's in there. It's still crazy to this day. I remember my first season, midway through, my boss comes into the PA booth and he's like, just so you know, your microphone is going to Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame. They reached out, so guess we're going to have to get you a new microphone. And I was like, okay. Mind you, I'm prepping the script. My script's digital, so it's on my laptop. I'm just prepping, and he hits me with that news, and I'm like,
Okay, cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does that hit you right away? Like when you
No,
like,
it didn't.
oh my
It
God.
didn't. And I think it hit me. It didn't even hit me when they took the microphone away. It hit me when I was there at the museum, looking at it and realizing what was around it, and the whole history of baseball being there. And like, it's me, but then there's Jackie Robinson and Babe Ruth and all these big name baseball players, and I'm somehow a part of it. And so it makes you emotional at the same time too, because, you know, being just a PA announcer, and for, you know, the MLB itself to recognize like, hey, this is big stuff and we appreciate it. And, you know, just them appreciating the work and the history and the accomplishment that that came with being the Cubs PA announcer, it's leaves me speechless most of the time. So
That's pretty cool. You're not a PA announcer. You are the PA announcer. You are our PA announcer in Chicago. Thank you.
There it is.
That's
There
how
you
about
go.
some ducks? We got
Appreciate it.
ducks for that too.
Appreciate
Thank you. That's right. No, I think that's super cool to be in Cooperstown. We can say we're friends with a Hall of Famer now.
We can.
Yeah.
We've had a
You
Hall of
see what
Famer on the
that's-
podcast.
There you
Had a
see
Hall
what
of Famer on the podcast.
Look at us.
That's right.
biggest guys we ever had.
hey,
Hall of Famer status. I mean,
That's what I'm
you go
saying.
bigger than that.
Just when you thought we couldn't get bigger than Joe Madden, we had Jeremiah Paprocki.
That's
on the
right.
show.
oh
Yeah,
man,
just when you thought.
Just hearing you guys say Hall of Famer is
Yeah.
that's the part that comes in where you're like,
Yeah.
holy crap,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's it's a reality.
Yeah.
So one other thing I always see you walking around Wrigley pregame. Whenever I'm on the field doing whatever I have to do, I always see you walking around the stands, you know, saying hi to people. What is that like? Just that every game day you come in, you got people coming up to say hi to you. That part of it. Have you ever expected that, like, to have just people know who you are, people coming up to you at Cubs games and wanting to take pictures with you or just converse with you? That part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am lucky to have enough time from when the gates open to my first pregame announcements where I have the time to kind of walk around and talk to people and enjoy. So I kind of get there about 3.5 hours before first pitch, just so that window before the gates open, I get all my preparation in. And so I have time to go down and kind of, you know, talk to people. And Wrigley has such a great amount of guest service employees, field security, and I enjoy going down and talking to them and just, you know, having conversation. And then when the gates open, it's really cool to kind of, you know, be a figure to a whole lot of people, and sometimes even an inspiration where parents are coming with their kids and like, hey, we showed your story to our kids, and now they're you know, mimicking you and trying
really
to
cool.
announce Cubs players and taking pictures. And I love that stuff, man. Like being able to be a figure now, and people coming up and say, "Hey, can I get a picture?" I'll never say no to a picture. Like that, like you hear the stories of some celebrities or people that are, figures, and they keep going, or they pass by, and something like that always upsets me. And so it's like these people appreciate you and the value that you bring, and so it's like, of course, like you're a supporter of mine. Like the least I can do is take the time to talk, grab a picture, be an influence of some sort. And so there's by the when you come in by the media gate, sometimes there's kids with a baseball, and they're like, "Can you sign my baseball? Can we grab a picture?" CubsCon was great. That was my first CubsCon. I don't know if you guys know, humble brag, I have a baseball card with tops. And so people...
Hall of Famer wasn't enough.
Hall of Famer wasn't enough.
And so people have my baseball card, and they were coming up to me, and like I started my own little line of signing autographs and signing predominantly the baseball card. And so I don't take any of that stuff for granted. I worked hard to get to that level, and I'm definitely going to pay it back, pay it forward to the fans. And it's something that is also a really humbling and cool opportunity to be a figure like that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Patrick Kane, by the way, about to be traded to the Rangers tonight.
Well, there you go.
Someone in the chat
official,
is
yeah.
asking you to announce it.
Well, it's not officially official, but it's happening tonight. I want to make sure we get to putting Jeremiah to the test of introducing each of us. And if you're in the chat and you think you'd like to hear Jeremiah potentially introduce your name, a super chat would be a good way to go about doing that.
There we go. Yep.
Ryan, tell us all about Game Time, because if you're going to a Cubs game, you're wanting to have the best seats this season, so you can not only hear but maybe even see Jeremiah from where you're sitting.
you want to go to a Cubs game. You want to be able to talk to Jeremiah pregame, maybe get a picture. You got your Topps Jeremiah Paprocki baseball card that you want to get signed. You got to go to Game Time, because that's going to be the best way to get tickets for Cubs games this year. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. You ever dream of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert? It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on, again, Cubs tickets. If you're a White Sox fan, White Sox tickets. The Bulls are still playing. The Blackhawks are still playing. The Bears start in the fall. All that. You won't find a better deals on those tickets than with Game Time. Game Time is created by the fans, for the fans. It guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events. I neglected to mention the Chicago Red Stars, who you said your PA announcer. Best deals on tickets for those games.
Yep.
The Fire, the Chicago Sky. I mean, are you still doing UIC?
Yes.
So there you go. If you want to go to UIC game, you could probably find tickets there too.
I'm there too.
Like, there's a whole lot of opportunities to meet Jeremiah Paprocki and use Game Time to do it. That's all we ask.
I've opened up a can of worms. Everybody wants their grandchild to be announced now. Super chat that. Real quick, other Cubs news before we get to some fun stuff with Jeremiah Paprocki. Caleb Killian looked good. Barb's been asking for it in the chat. She wanted to talk yesterday. I said, well, the game's not over. But the control was better. That's the kind of thing. We don't want to put too much stock into any spring training game.
Especially the
but
first
what
one.
we do on this podcast is occasionally overreact. That's just part of the gig. And so it was great to see, and he might be in the starting rotation now. Is that too much of a overreaction? Probably.
I'm all the way back in, man.
It's still only
Reeled
February.
you back in.
Yeah, I'm
It's
ready
still
to be heard
only
again.
February. I'm going to let you two overreact.
But it's the stride you were talking about. He may have
Looked
fixed
better.
the stride.
Looked better. The
Knee looks
velocity was
healthy.
up.
It was, I mean, apparently he had a knee injury last year, so
Velocity was up.
yeah.
So
It's encouraging.
Jeremiah, do you ever catch yourself during a game seeing something that is so awesome that even you sort of react in some way, shape, or form? Like Cam Sanders, Ryan Jensen, they both hit 99, or I've heard you say the Morel home run, but like, has there ever been a moment in a game where you went from here in your introductions to here because of what just happened on the field?
I feel like the Morel's first at bat is probably the top memorable thing that I've experienced. Because it was just such a magical moment. Yeah. I always heard stories about the 2015, 2016 playoff runs and World Series games where you would feel the press box shake.
Yeah.
And when Morel got a hold of that ball and it was going, that was the very first time I understood what they meant by that. And I felt the press box shake. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is cool. Like, that's a magical moment for him. But I was here to experience it live, and everyone else feels it. And, like, I felt the energy kind of circle around. And I was like, this is what, this is baseball. This is what it's all about. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember being at that game, and like, I don't think I was physically watching the pitch. I think I was, because it was the bottom of the eighth. Like, the game was getting close to being over. So I was doing whatever I was doing, and I hear the crack of the bat. And as I look up, I see the ball flying, and then the press box shake. There was, for whatever reason, mid-May, there was a ton of people there at a Cubs Pirates, I want to say it was, at a Cubs Pirates game in mid-May, and the place was packed. And I understand what you're saying, like the press box shaking. You're like, it is loud as hell in this.
Well, Gordon and Bruce were jumping up and down, pumping their fist. No, that's not what happened.
I still want to see a no-hitter.
Yes.
Obviously from the Cubs side.
Yeah.
But that's like my lifelong goal, even as a fan, is to witness a no-hitter. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's such a magical feat.
For the longest time,
I've never seen one.
Yeah, for the longest time, I went without seeing like a walk-off, whether it was I've never seen a walk-off homer, but I've seen walk-off hits. So, I mean, I'll take what I can get, but I think it's walk-off homer and for a no-hitter. I think those are like the two things I would love to see.
Yeah, I remember sometime during the summer last year, or it might have been September, but I think the closest we got last year to actually witnessing one was Stroman. I think he had 6 no-hit innings. Like at home, at Wrigley, 6 no-hit innings, and then maybe like an out or two into the 7th is when he finally gave up a hit. But like, that's as close, I think, as I've ever been to getting a no-hitter. But yeah, I agree. Like, that would be, just being able to see that in person is always pretty cool.
That emotion in sports is one of the things that makes sports great in general. Like, where else are you in the world where something happening can literally, people can shake the ground with their voice, right? Michael Jordan, when I used to see him at the old Chicago Stadium, when they would introduce him, you would feel the noise. You wouldn't even hear Michael Jordan announced. They would get ready to do it, and you would feel the sound go through the inside of your body. You would feel like your lungs and stuff rattling because it was such an old brick building. Same thing, 16 World Series, all of those great moments, the building shaking. The only other thing I can think of is Woodfield Mall at Christmas time. Sometimes the ramp shake a little bit. But seriously, like, sports are one of the few things where you can get people so excited. Not even a rock concert do you get everybody so excited at one specific moment that it literally shakes the arena or the building or the ground that you're standing on. So that's a cool thing. And the next time that person comes up, do you feel like you put a little more into it? Like, say a guy has a great game and he's got 2 home runs already. The next time he comes up, do you put a little extra oomph, or do you like to go about it the same way you did the first 2 times up?
I think the next day I put a little more oomph behind his name, just because, like we said, it was at the late end of the game.
Yeah.
So, he didn't come back to the plate. So obviously the next day you're kind of still riding off that energy because it was so special that him coming out again that game, you're like, that's that kid that hit the home run in his first at bat. And so you definitely remember it, especially when you're seeing the name, and for me when I'm reading it. But I always try to stay as excited And like I think during the game it depends on the scenario, but like I try to like up the energy as the game progresses. And obviously when you go to the bottom of the ninth, that is usually never a good sign. But I'm the opposite, where it's like this is the big time moment, clutch time, and I'm like probably the loudest I could be in the bottom of the ninth. So
you're building the whole time. It's better than falling the whole time.
For sure. So I mean, I'm the ultimate hype man with the microphone. So I think that's part of my responsibility too. But as a fan, naturally, I enjoy that clutch time moment where it's like I want to get everyone hyped up here. So
I get what level you're saying, because I've heard you announce opposing players, and you can tell the difference compared to them, comparably to
we don't
to when you
care
do the
about
Cubs.
opposing players.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a way that could be hard to do, because like you said, you want to be consistent and all this stuff. So like trying to obviously hype up the Cubs players more than any opposing players.
He doesn't go to the degree we would. Like, for instance, we would have been like, and here comes Yadier Molina, right? That way, you just
Still professional.
yeah, you're still professional.
Yeah,
you
that's
still
what-
say
it's
his
professional,
name
but
because
it's
he's
not
a
like
professional
you could-
baseball
you
player.
could-
Cody would say, "Here comes blanking Yadier Molina." Okay, there's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference in how that would go. So I was watching the Cubs at spring training do all their nicknames. I think it was Marquee. Maybe it was
Yeah.
it actually might have just been the Cubs. I'm not sure who it
yeah.
was.
It was on social.
Everybody was doing their nicknames, and so Seiya was Justin Bieber, and I forget who was Butter. Who was Butter?
I
It
don't
was one of the
remember.
relief pitcher, one of the young pitchers, straight Butter.
Is it Jensen? It might have been.
It might have been Jensen. Cody Bellinger was Belly, and I thought to myself, we have Jeremiah coming in. We should see if we can get him to do introductions for us. Maybe somebody in the chat. I would like to hear something for Cody on the lines of the godfather of analytics, Cody Delmetrics, or Cody Del Mendo is the name. But if you could throw in the godfather of analytics. Cody Del Mendo is the name you need to remember. What twist could we put on that?
See, so if my insight on nicknames is as a PA announcer, I hate nicknames.
Oh,
Like it's like I think
try
it's
to
I
remember
think
it,
it's
right?
just as the professional like
yeah.
experience of it. It's like we're like so like professional, but also straightforward at the same time. First name, last name.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep it going.
So here's what we're gonna do then. If you don't want to do nicknames,
No, I was gonna say,
you're gonna do
but
it.
since I'm on the show,
oh yeah, beautiful.
I'll make an
Beautiful.
introduction.
See, that's what we like. That's what we like. I was gonna say, well, if I have to set up the whole thing, I will, and then we'll let you say the name professionally. But if you would like to join the party, that's even better.
Exactly.
Cam Sanders was the Butta,
Was Butter? Okay.
apparently,
All right.
through 99. Butter.
So what's the?
What do you think? What would you like him to say, Cody? Because this will probably be, I would assume, on your Twitter page or your Insta. It's part of your TikTok tomorrow or whatever that stuff is.
The founder and co-creator of Delmetrics, Cody Del Mendo. So, something
Oh, that's a
around-
lot. We
That's a
better
lot,
better start
Yeah.
writing some of this
Yeah.
stuff
So
down.
you want me to put a note? Just like
man.
The
have you
founder,
hold it up where you can
have a
see.
tele-
founder of
teleprompter?
Delmetrics, Cody Del Mendo.
There you go.
All right, you want me to
Can
write
we-
these down?
Sarah, can we just quickly get that on the like bottom part of it so he
yeah.
can see it?
Yeah, that'd be good if we could put it on the screen, because I'm going to start thinking of mine, and then he can just knock them out one after another.
If
So we've
not-
got the founder and father of Delmetrics,
Yeah.
Cody Del Mendo.
Here we go.
Ryan, what are you looking for? Once benched 275. That
Yeah,
would be a good one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's all right. Delmendo.
Well done, Stuck. A lot of
We'll just
people
say no.
don't spell it right.
We'll go separate. I'll just be Hawaiian.
Oh,
Ryan
yeah.
Herrera. Because you've seen me there. I wear a lot of Hawaiians to
Yeah.
the ballpark.
Yeah.
So I'll just be Hawaiian Ryan Herrera. I was gonna say like
Oh, no. Say aloha to
Hawaiian Ryan.
the Hawaiian Ryan Herrera. That's beautiful. So the next one is say aloha to.
Right, we'll do that.
Oh,
We'll do that later.
Sarah's lost it.
Here we go.
We'll do this one
We'll
first.
do Cody first. Yeah. All right.
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
Cool.
Here we
All
go.
right. And now, see,
There's a lot of pressure.
Founder and father of Delmetrics.
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
typed out
typo,
wrong.
not my
That's all right.
fault.
The founder and father.
The founder and father of Delmetrics. Okay.
There we go. Now we're good. I'm good.
Okay, here we go. Here we
All
go.
right.
This
All
is Jeremiah Paprocki.
And now the founder and godfather of Delmetrics, Cody Delmendo.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's definitely going up on social
Yeah,
media
that's
somewhere.
now I think Ryan should be say aloha to the Hawaiian Ryan Herrera.
Say aloha.
Say aloha to Hawaiian Ryan Herrera. That's not easy to say. This is why he gets paid for
This
this.
is why he gets the big bucks. All right.
Say aloha to Hawaiian Ryan
Herrera.
Herr.
Say aloha.
He knows that's Hawaiian.
I got it.
So yeah,
Do you think you
put
got
an
it?
N
You
on
wanna
it.
just go for it?
RAYN.
That's
so.
a lot of like
think-
tongue twisting.
I think he's got
He's got it. He's got it. Here we go.
And now say aloha to Hawaiian Ryan Herrera.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
All right. You need one now.
Well, I was thinking colada. Say hello to the Godfather of Bitter,
The godfather of bitter.
Michael Culata.
Right here. Michael, Cullota. We got it right there.
Culata says he's the only Godfather. He wants that back.
The godfather of bitter.
Mine should be something about. There's something about a Maverick vibe.
Steve.
Steve, Grandpa Stucky is also possible. Get off my lawn. It's time. Get off his lawn. Here comes Grandpa Stucky. That's not bad.
I like
That is
it.
good.
I like it.
That is good.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
Yeah, you.
I got it.
All right.
Should I do this in the old man voice?
Yes.
you
wait.
have one?
Well, I'd like to in two different fonts, if you would.
Get off his lawn. Here comes Grandpa Stucky. All right, baseball
Yeah,
voice.
now I want.
Get off his lawn. Here comes Grandpa Stucky.
That was good.
That
was good.
That was the best
Incredible.
one.
Rich says mine should include Thickmeyer or Steve.
Get off his lawn.
Oh,
That's
so
not
good.
bad.
God.
That's so good.
We should do one for somebody in the chat. Who's
Who's gonna give us the first super chat?
First super chat.
For super chat wins.
Mike Dubs. Mike Dubs probably appreciate one.
Doesn't say I met Rich down in Arizona. He may appreciate one.
Yeah, Rich would be good. King of picks. Mike Dubs. What about Mike Dubs? He brings the Dubs to Wrigley Field. Mike Dubs. That's not bad.
Brings the Dubs to
Bringing the
Wrigley.
Dubs to the north side.
Well, he always posts that video of him sprinting down
the
the
flag.
street with the flag.
Yeah.
Get out your flag.
So-
He's bringing the Dubs to the north side. Mike Dubs. That's
There you
pretty
go.
good.
Get out your flag.
Is that what we're going with?
Oh, I got a good one.
Oh, Jeremiah's
he
got
got
one.
it.
All right.
It's time to fly to W because he's bringing the Dubs to Wrigley Field. Mike Dubs.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's
Off the top
professional.
Of it. Off the top of his head.
I
He's
like it.
Improviser.
I think that's
so
good.
good.
We're going to have you send us, I'm going to set you up to send us out at the end of the podcast, Hall of Fame style, Hall of Famer. They're saying, take your shoes off. I don't know what that means.
Don't take your shoes off. keep them on.
It
We
does
got,
sound like the Imperial
post up
Marching
the
horn.
kicks here.
Yeah, look at you guys with your matches.
See,
It's hard
there
to
we
tell.
go.
He's
There
got
we
the
go.
dunk highs. I got
There it
the
is.
Jordan lows.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Sir.
Anyways,
Sir.
it was super nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having
would-
me on the show. It was a blast.
We'd love to have you back another time. Very excited for what's going on in your life and looking forward to hearing your voice at Wrigley Field for decades. I hope you're doing this until you're 85, and then we will hear the grandpa voice at that point. But
Hopefully it stays like this.
that's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in. Super chat.
Uh-oh.
Great stuff, guys. Best show so far.
Well,
Fernando with a super chat.
always appreciate Fernando giving
Well,
us
let's
super
give
chats.
Fernando one. Be like,
Spreading the cheese, the king of super chats, Fernando
yeah, there you go.
Rodriguez.
The king of super chats, Fernando Rodriguez.
Yeah. The king of super chats. Can you give us that one?
Yeah. The king of super chats, Fernando Rodriguez.
There
Beautiful.
There you go.
Well done.
That's a way to send it off.
More
right there.
more segments, please, Parsons. We gotta go. The Patrick Kane stuff's gonna take off. Huge thanks to Jeremiah Paprocki. Don't forget, get your tickets. Go to Wrigley Field. Listen to him. You can also catch him with the Red Stars, UIC basketball, all O'Hare Airport. You're gonna hear him all over the place. He's international.
Cubs fans, next starts here. We're looking forward to seeing you at the ballpark in just 30 days. Go Cubs.
There you go.
And now, thanks for listening to the CHGO Cubs podcast.
And thanks for listening to the CHGO Cubs Podcast.
Presented by DraftKings. And don't forget, fly the W.